Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 38th Annual Sports Hall of Fame Enshrinement Banquet. I'm Joe Tate, your Master of Ceremonies for this program, and I want to start off with a couple of announcements that you may find interesting. There is no intermission tonight. Once we get started, we're not going to stop till it's over. And the bar will reopen for the dinner hour only. The bar will then reopen after the program is completed for your socializing. And now, without any further ado, I would like to call Marlene Karpinsky for the National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Marlene, thank you. At the cue, about half the time they sing the national anthem, you can't even recognize it for the national anthem, but that was beautifully done. Now I would like to introduce President Craig Snodgrass. Craig?
Thank you, Joe. It is with great honor that I welcome you here this evening on behalf of the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame Committee. Tonight we gather to celebrate the rich sports history of the City of Lorain in its 38th Annual Enshrinement Banquet. The class of 2007 inductees continue to exemplify the high standard that previous inductees have set. I would like to congratulate the 8 individuals and members of the team that we will be honoring this evening. These inductees will be joining the 275 enshrinees and 21 teams that have come before them. The goal of our committee is to elect the most deserving and qualified from the nominees submitted by the public. I encourage all of you to take part in the process in helping us to achieve our goal and nominate candidates for consideration. I also invite you to participate in Hall of Fame activities and ask that you consider becoming a member of our committee. For more information, ask a current member, or you may visit our website, www.lorainsportshalloffame.com. I would also like to extend my gratitude to all of you here tonight sharing in the evening in one of Lorain's premier events. Before proceeding, I would like to welcome some special guests who will participate in tonight's program. Seated at the table front right is Mayor Craig Fulton and his wife Karen. My very understanding and kind of pregnant wife, Wendy. Our guest speaker, Steve Bankston, and his wife, Rosalind. The Reverend Basil Stoika. And to my right, we also have Mr. Tim Elkhorn from WEOL and a Ulan presenter. Soloist Marlene Karpinsky. And our Master of Ceremonies in Waiting, Ron Bacalar. Also seated at the table here in front is Coach Tony Misko and his wife Jean from the 1962 Admiral King team. Thank you for participating in tonight's program. Now, for the introduction of inductees. The Lorain Sports Hall of Fame Committee proudly presents the class of 2007. Please hold your applause until all inductees have been introduced. From the regular category, Ricky Melendez, accompanied by his son, Alex. Paul Raider, represented by his wife, Wendy, and brother, George. Joe Restifo, represented by his brother, Peter and Michael. To my left, Deborah Taylor, accompanied by her son, Claude Gray III. Brian Tutkovitz, accompanied by his wife, Julie. Harold Walton, accompanied by his wife, Stacy. And from the special category, Michael Burke, accompanied by his wife, Jane. Also from the special category, Richard Zavosic, accompanied by his son, Colin. And from the team category, Admiral King 1962 football team, represented by assistant coaches Ed DeHanas and Bob Tomaszewski. Ladies and gentlemen, please join the committee in welcoming the class of 2007 into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Now for the invocation. We haven't shared a microphone together for 38 years, but Reverend Basil Stoika is here tonight, pastor of the St. Peter and Paul Orthodox Church in Lorain. He will now give us the invocation. Reverend?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. About 39 years ago, Joe and I worked together at WERE, so reminiscing about those days. But let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we, your people, gather here this evening to acknowledge those young people of our community who exemplify the high standards of training and performance of excellence in sports. This evening's banquet and fellowship brings us together, families, friends, inductees, and previous enshrinees, and to our guest speaker who have come to honor all of us this evening in our city of Lorain. And the people of God all said together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. God bless you all.
All right, dinner will now be served, and the program will resume in approximately 1 hour, and the banquet chairman will advise when ready. So dig in. All right, let's get the show on the road. If you're not down yet, you should be. And it's a pleasure once again this year to introduce the Honorable Craig Fulton, the Mayor of Lorain. Mayor.
Thank you, everybody. First of all, congratulations to all the inductees to my left and right and those out there. As you know, Lorain's one tough town, and we're very much known for our sports. So being inducted to the Hall of Fame is quite an honor, which all of you are very proud of, and I'm very happy to be part of your evening here tonight. And of course, this is one of the bigger nights of the year for Lorain, and I told Len DeLuca, You finally arrived. You landed the Sports Hall of Fame banquet. But one thing, I'm going to be a little sad, and this will be my last year to come up here as your mayor, but I'll still be around, and it's been a great honor and privilege sitting next to Joe for quite a few of those years and getting to know and meet so many of you. You guys are really great, especially the committee, great for this community, and you know, it really is what our town is about, hardworking, tough, good people, and I really applaud the committee and the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame for making it such an honor to be in the Hall of Fame and such a great event here every year. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mayor. It says here I'm supposed to introduce the media. Well, I understand from Teresa Newhoff that the print media have already bailed out. She says early deadline. But if you know anything about newspapers, it means they came, they ate, and they split. On the electronic side, from WEOL Radio, Jim Allen and Tim Elkhorn. From TV 20 WLCS, Joe Bach and Ron Bacalar. And we have the Elyria Sports Hall of Fame group here tonight. Stand up and take a bow. Elyria Sports Hall of Fame group. Now I want all of the past enshrinees who are here in the audience to stand, be recognized, and receive a sincere round of applause. All former enshrinees. As some of you know, I have an association with Mount Union College, and when I go over to Baldwin Wallace, people say, oh yeah, you're with that Mount Union school. And they mumble. Said, we just can never beat you. And then I mentioned this gentleman's name because he beats Mount Union all the time, along with just about everybody else. Steve Bankston, certainly no stranger to folks in Lorain County because he compiled an outstanding record during his 12 years at Lorain County Community College, developing the Commodores into a junior college basketball powerhouse. Steve recently completed his 27th year as athletic director and head basketball coach at Baldwin Wallace in Berea, where he is the winningest men's coach in that college history. Without further ado, I am pleased to present this evening's guest speaker, Mr. Steve Bankston.
Thanks a lot, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I want to welcome all of you. I want to extend my congratulations to the inductees on this, the 38th Annual Hall of Fame dinner, both the individuals and the teams. Now, I must admit, folks, that I'm a little bit apprehensive about speaking here tonight because of a couple of situations that occurred recently. I had spoken at a group, and afterwards a young man came up to me and said, Coach, he said, as a speaker, you're lousy. And the president came over and put his arm around me and said, I don't know what that young man said. He said he just goes around repeating what everybody else says. Then last week I'm at a Rotary meeting, and the fellow right down here in front, I'd barely begun to speak, and he stood up and he said, can you people in the back hear? And the guy in the back said, no, I can't. And he said, well, save me a seat. He said, I'm coming right back. You know, Ken Venturi, the golfing great, once said, it's not so much the fact that of what people have accomplished when they're selected to halls of fame, but the fact that they're being remembered. And tonight, we have a group of individuals and teams that are being remembered by all of you. I think this is a tremendous tribute to the city of Lorain, to the members of the Hall of Fame, to all of you who have attended, who remember these individuals here this evening, who gave you a lot of thrills and memories, and that's why we're here to recognize them tonight. My wife and I came to Lorain County from Michigan in 1968. and we have resided here ever since. And I know how important sports are to Lorain and the rich tradition that Lorain has had and the surrounding high schools in this particular area. I've been in athletics for 43 years. I'm finishing my 43rd year as a head coach. And athletics is really a metaphor for life. I remember many of these inductees this evening and what they accomplished and the thrills that they gave. And tonight I want to just briefly speak about 3 qualities that I think every individual up here has developed as an athlete that will carry over into life and will make them a better citizen as far as our society is concerned. The first thing, every one of these individuals recognizes the importance of goals. Aristotle said it best many years ago when he said, man is a goal-seeking animal. If his life is to have meaning, he's got to have goals. We all need long-range, medium-range, and short-range goals. Abraham Lincoln said, I will study and prepare myself, and maybe my opportunity will come. We have a sign in our locker room at Baldwin Wallace about the will to prepare to win. It's not so much when the game rolls around, because everybody, when the crowd is there and the band is playing, like the Cavaliers, they're getting ready right now. They're trying to prepare to win. You know, they go out there and they recognize that, hey, everybody wants to win the night of the game, but the preparation is so important. Self-motivation is the key. No, I read in the paper about Harold Walton. I remember when Harold played at Admiral King, and I remember when he played at Kent State. But the interesting thing I thought in the article was when Harold said, I remember rolling out of bed and going to the park and playing by myself. I remember going and playing with a group of guys outside. All of the individuals who have achieved athletic success or any success in life have found that they have to work when other people aren't looking. They have to work on their game. They actually show it off when the game itself is on, but it takes a lot of time. It's not the push from behind nor the pull from in front, but the drive from within. The self-motivation that comes from knowing, hey, I've got to do the job, whether it's on the athletic field, whether it's in the business world, whatever it happens to be. Every day I've got to get up and go to work. The second quality after goals is the importance of respect. I think athletes learn that. And we live in a society, folks, where that is breaking down. We only have to look recently what happened with Don Imus. We only have to look at what happened down at Virginia Tech to recognize that respect is breaking down around us. Athletes generally have respect for their coaches. They recognize that the coaches are coaching them. They're not courting them. There's a difference. They have respect for their teachers, the understanding that teachers are educating them and not entertaining them. We live in a microwave type of generation where a lot of times things are wanting to be entertaining to us. But if we realize that that's not what a teacher is doing. Officials. Ed Dohanis has officiated for me back in 1968 at Lorain County Community College. He was paid $35 for that game. Today you look at what the officials are making, but officials are important to the game, and they have been throughout. And players respect officials. They respect their teammates. They respect their opponents. They recognize that they're competing against their opponents, but that it's a friendly rivalry. They respect their parents or the ones that raised them. You know, one of the great stories that I remember was when Lou Little, for you old timers, you remember Lou Little was the football coach at Columbia. And that was back in the single platoon. For you younger people, that meant that if you were playing on the offensive team, you also had to be on the defensive team. So the quarterback would oftentimes be the safety, the fullback would be a linebacker, and so on. Lou had a young man, in terms, and we're talking now about respect, had a young man on his team. He hadn't played in 4 years, and it was the last game of the year was coming up. And his father passed away. And so Lou went to him and said, son, why don't you go home for the funeral? And I don't care if you come back or not. You're going to have a lot on your mind and so forth. Saturday's game rolled around, and the young man came in the locker room. And he said to Coach Little, Coach, put me in on the kickoff team. Just give me a chance. The young man had been like a third stringer throughout his career. So Lou thought, well, it's been a difficult week for him. I'll give him an opportunity. And they kicked the ball off, and he made the tackle. And he thought, I'll leave him out there on the field. And so he made tackles, and then he went on offense, and he ran the ball, and he passed the ball, and he caught it, and he did a lot of good things. And when the game was over and Columbia had won, and all the sports writers cleared out of the locker room, Lou went up to him and said, son, you've been on my team for 4 years. I've never seen you play like you did tonight. And he said, well, Coach, you know my father died. He said, yes. He said, you know my father was blind. And he said, yes, I've seen you walking him around campus. He said, well, Coach, today was the first game my father ever saw me play. Respect, folks. Respect for our parents. Respect for those people who have gone on ahead. Respect in terms of for all of you for sponsoring these individuals and coming out here tonight to give them support. The last characteristic that I think is important as far as athletics and carrying over into life is perseverance. I'm only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do, I ought to do. That which I ought to do, I will do. Perseverance means you know what you want, you believe you can get it, you work all you can to achieve it, and you won't give up anyway. Mack O'Grady, a name many of you may not know, but Mack O'Grady played on the golf tour for a while. He went to qualifying school 17 times before he qualified to play on the PGA Tour. Now there's just one qualifying school per year, but in those days they had two. But Mack O'Grady went 17 times, 8.5 years before he got out on the tour. Perseverance. You know, it kind of reminds me of the two guys that were seated at the bar. One was a big guy and one was a small guy. And the big guy reached over here like to Joe, and he hit him, and the little guy fell off the stool. And he said, that's karate from Korea. The little guy picked himself up, sat down. The big guy reached over, gave him another whack, said, that's judo from Japan. The little guy picked himself up and walked out of the bar. The big guy said to the bartender, I guess I showed him a thing or two. Pretty soon the little guy came back in, the big guy still at the bar, slightly more inebriated. Well, wham! He hit the big guy, stretched him out. He said to the bartender, when he comes to, tell him that was a crowbar from Sears. Perseverance, folks. You know, tonight after these people are inducted, as they go out in life, in whatever they do, whether they're in business or education, profession, whatever it happens to be, whether they're going to be the next announcer for the Cavaliers or the Knicks or whomever. We're not trying to replace you here, Joe, or anything. Whatever it is, they make the best of it. Reminds me of the fable. The wise man would go down to the city square, and the people would come and would ask him questions. And some of the young people got a little annoyed that he knew all the answers. So this one guy said, I'm going to ask that guy a question he can't answer. He said, I'm going to take a bird, a live bird, in my hand, and I will ask him, is this bird alive? And if he says no, he said, then I'll open my hand and it'll fly away. I'll have the bird in my hand and I'll ask him, is he alive? And if he says yes, he is, I'll squeeze it. Either way, the wise man will be wrong. He won't be right. So the next morning, the wise man was up front and he said, are there any questions? And this young fellow raised his hand. He said, in my hand I hold a bird. Is this bird alive or is it dead? Immediately the wise man said, it's what you make of it. It's what you make of it. And that's the way it is for these inductees tonight. What they make of their occasion this evening, the honor that has come to them, the things that they have learned in athletics that they will carry over into life, into business, into their families, into respect, goal setting, and perseverance. Remember this your lifetime through. Tomorrow there will be more to do. And failure waits for those who stay, with some success made yesterday. Tomorrow we must try once more, and even harder than before. Thank you very much.
Gee, Coach, I meant to ask you, when we had our training camps out at Baldwin Wallace, 70, 71, 72, there was this little kid running around out there. I wonder whatever happened to him. His name was Jim Tressel. I think he amounted to something too, didn't he?
Put those lessons to use.
That's right. All right. Speaking of people who have amounted to something, pleasure to call up Tim Elkhorn from WEOL Radio. Tim?
Thank you, Joe. I think that's the first time you've ever said something nice about me in introducing me at the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. I will remember that. And by what?
You'd better.
And by the way, it's good to have you here tonight. Glad you could join us on an off night. But I think we all certainly hope that Joe is going to be very, very busy for about the next month or so calling Cleveland Cavaliers basketball as they make their run in the playoffs. Calling those games on AM 930 WEOL. Had to get a plug in. It is time, as always, for the J. Ed Euland Awards. The Lorain Sports Hall of Fame annually honors the memory of J. Ed Euland, one of the founding members of the Hall of Fame, by presenting scholarship awards to the outstanding senior male and female student athletes nominated by their participating schools. Criteria for judging includes class rank and GPA, athletic achievements and community service or extracurricular activities, all of which have equal value. Secret ballot voting by the committee determines the two winners of the $1,000 scholarship awards, with the runner-up nominees each receiving a $250 grant to the college of their choice. The Lorain Sports Hall of Fame gratefully acknowledges the financial grant received from the Lakeland Healthcare Corporation Board of Directors to assist in funding the scholarship awards. The complete biography of accomplishments for these outstanding nominees are listed for your reference on pages 42 and 43 in the program book. This introduction only includes selective accomplishments for brevity. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, two of the three female nominees have made their way to the front, and we will introduce to you first and list the accomplishments of Giselle Lara Arredondo, nominated by Southview High School. In academics, Giselle is ranked 8th in her class out of 232 with a 4.564 GPA. She is also a member of the National Honor Society. In athletics, Giselle is a letter winner in soccer, cross country, and track, and she is also first team All-Lorain County Soccer, 2006 Lake Erie League Scholar Athlete, and Giselle is also very active on school council and clubs. Again, our nominee from Southview High School, Giselle Lara Arredondo. Introducing next, our nominee from Clearview High School, Courtney Noster. Courtney is ranked 7th in her class out of 135 students at Clearview, carrying a 4.1 GPA. Courtney is a member of the National Honor Society, and she will graduate high school already with an Associate of Arts and Science degree. Athletically, Courtney is a letter winner in basketball and softball, and she is first team All-Lorain County in softball. And at Clearview High School, Courtney is also Student Council Vice President. Again, the nominee from Clearview High School is Courtney Noster. And the nominee from Lorain Admiral King High School is Dominique Starr. Dominique academically ranks 4th in her class out of 200 at Lorain Admiral King, carrying a 4.0 GPA. Dominique is also a member of the National Honor Society. Athletically, Dominique lettered in volleyball, basketball, and track, and she was an all-county member of the volleyball and basketball all-county teams. Dominique is also a 4-year student council member as well as a student mentor and ambassador member. Again, the nominee from Lorain Admiral King High School is Dominique Starr. I now know who won the boys. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to announce to you the winner of the 2007 J. Ed Uland Award for the female athlete, Courtney Noster from Clearview High School.
Evening, everybody. Such an honor. I want to thank everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my family, mom and dad, for sitting through practices, driving me all over the place, and being my biggest fans. I'd like to thank my athletic director and my principal for nominating me for this award, teammates and coaches, making all my games fun, and the committee for believing in me and giving me some money for my future. And it's such an honor. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Courtney. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the introduction of our three males, the three young men who have been nominated for the J. Ed Uland Award. Starting with our nominee from Southview High School, Matthew J. Finley. Matthew academically ranks 90th out of a class of 232 at Southview with a grade point average of 3.3. He's received certificate of completion from Lorain County Community College Project Grad as far as the Summer Institute. Athletically, Matthew has lettered in wrestling, cross country, and track, Lorain County All-Star Team in wrestling, as well as a state qualifier in wrestling. Matthew is also very involved with his church as he volunteers at many church festivals. Again, our nominee from Southview High School, Matthew J. Finley. The nominee from Clearview High School is Troy Simmons. Troy academically ranked 22nd out of a class of 135 with a 3.7 GPA. Troy is also a member of the National Honor Society at Clearview. Athletically, Troy was a letter winner in basketball and baseball, and in basketball he was the MVP award and All-State Honorable Mention, and Troy was also Lorain County's Mr. Basketball. Troy Simmons also is a National Arts Awards winner. Again, the nominee from Clearview High School for the J. Ed Uland Award is Troy Simmons. And the nominee from Lorain Admiral King High School is Jonathan T. Feldcamp. Jonathan over at Admiral King is ranked 15th out of a class of 200 with a 4.2 GPA. And Jonathan also is a member of the National Honor Society. Athletically, he lettered in football, basketball, and baseball. He was first team All Lake Erie League in football and first team All Lorain County in football. And it's good to have WEOL's very own Jim Allen here because Jim asked me to tell you that currently, as of right now, Jonathan is batting a lofty .574 in baseball. And Jonathan is also very active in his church as well as many community activities. Ladies and gentlemen, our nominee from Lorain Admiral King High School is Jonathan T. Feldcamp. And ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce the 2007 J. Ed Uland Award for the young men, Jonathan J.T. Feldcamp from Lorain Admiral King High School.
I would just like to offer my deepest appreciation to Lorain Sports Hall of Fame Committee for honoring me with this award. And I would also like to thank my parents, my family, my teachers, principals, and coaches, especially Coach Campo, Coach Scott, Coach Stacy, Coach Akesy, and Coach Ransom for all the impact that they have had on my life. But most importantly, I would like to thank my teammates. I would not have been able to succeed in sports without the hard work and dedication of my teammates. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jonathan, and again, congratulations to all of our nominees, terrific nominees on both the male and the female side. And it is now my pleasure to turn the microphone once again over to Mr. Joe Tate. Joe?
Thanks, Tim. Well, there is no intermission tonight, but they have included in the festivities here a seventh inning stretch. So up on your feet for the seventh inning stretch. It allows Joe Bach to change his battery. When he's got it changed, we're going to roll. Thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the program where the Hall of Fame Committee proudly inducts the class of 2007 into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. Now, tonight we will induct 6 individuals who athletically have achieved much to earn them special recognition. 2 individuals will receive recognition for their outstanding contributions to the sporting community, and a team whose excellence brought fame to their school. I might add that these inductees were nominated by the general public. And with that having been said, if any of you believe there are individuals or teams who deserve consideration for future induction into the Hall of Fame, it is up to you to obtain and submit a nominating application to the committee. Application forms are available from any committee member or at the museum and also from our website. Allow me now to present the first inductee, and please read the complete achievements of these outstanding people in your program book, because my introduction remarks will be condensed and relatively brief. Number 1, leading off tonight, outstanding group of inductees from the regular category is Ricky Melendez for his superb basketball career at all levels. First at Lorain High School, where he was all Buckeye Conference at all Ohio honorable mention. Then in college at Lakeland Community College, and then 2 years at Atlantic Christian College, now Barton College, where he was team captain 2 years, MVP, first team All-Carolina Conference, and male athlete of the year. Finally, for his 10-year professional career in Puerto Rico, where he played in the Superior and Puerto Rican basketball leagues. Off the court, Ricky was honored December 27, 1987, when then Mayor Alex Oleko declared Ricky Melendez Day, recognizing his life as an outstanding citizen in the city of Lorain. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ricky Melendez into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to say it's an extreme honor to meet you, Mr. Tate. There's,
All right, looking good, Ricky. Looking good.
Thank you. Apologize for not following cue there. It's an extreme honor to meet you, Mr. Tate. There's been many, many evenings that I used to listen to you on the radio because I was a big Cavaliers fan, and I'm still a big Cavs fan, when Campy Russell and Jim Jones and Foots Walker and Dick Snyder and Bingo Smith. I was a very, very big fan, and I really enjoyed listening to you commentate.
Thank you.
It's an extreme honor and privilege to be standing here in front of my family, friends, former coaches, the Hall of Fame committee, and all of you on this special occasion. Forgive me for I'm a little nervous right now. So, I'm not going to stand up here and tell my life story, but what I'm going to do is tell you some things that I think are very important, and I got my cheat sheet to tell you. So. Oh, it's in my other jacket. It's in my other jacket. Man, I just messed things all up. I tell you.
Time's up, Rick.
All right, let's see. When I graduated from Lorain High in 1981, I had no interest in college or furthering my basketball career. Everybody told me I was making a big mistake, but I had to find out for myself. They also told me that I would regret this later on in life. It finally took me 2 years to realize that I wanted to go back. I was in a career that had no promising future and realized that I needed to further my education if I wanted to be successful in life. I went back to my high school coach, one of my high school coaches, Coach Hartman, and I told Coach that I wanted to go back to school, not only to continue my basketball career, but to further my education. So Coach Hartman wrote a letter of recommendation to about 8 or 10 junior colleges. From that, surprisingly, it was an overwhelming response from the colleges because they remembered me when I played in high school. With that being said, there was 4 or 5 offers on the table for me, and all I had to do was pick the best one, and I did. To make a long story short, forgive me, I'm still a little nervous here. So all right. Like I said, the response was overwhelming for me, and even after a 2-year absence, before I knew it, I had 4 or 5 offers on the table, and I took the best one. Okay. The rest is history. But I think the biggest joy of my life is that I have 3 beautiful sons, Ricky, TJ, and Alex, that I have the extreme fortunate to watch play basketball, and I think that's the biggest joy of my life right now. Even after playing high school, the collegiate level, and the professional level, it's certainly an honor to watch them play. With that also being said, I would like to take this time to give out some special thank yous to some very special people that have touched my life. Okay. One is Coach Carl Hartman. Mr. Hartman wanted to be here with me tonight, but unfortunately could not because of an illness. But I can say that before I came here tonight, I did go see him and his wife, and I thought that he was doing very, very, very well. That man really touched my life. He guided me, he supported me, he got me back in school. We had many, many, many long talks, believe me. He was a tough man, and I respect him dearly. Secondly, I'd like to thank my stepfather, who's in attendance today, Jimmy Stanford, for keeping me in check. Jimmy, I love you. Thank you very much. Okay. Also, I'd like to make a special thank you to one of the inductees here tonight, Rich Zavosic. Rich, I don't know if anybody knows or not, but Rich gave me an opportunity at the time in 1985 when I went to Barton College and I signed with them which is in Wilson, North Carolina, was the assistant coach at that time. And he brought me to old little Wilson, North Carolina. And the next thing I know, he was leaving me. I still haven't forgiven you about that, Coach. But all in all, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the best 2 years of my life down in North Carolina. I had a very successful career, and I'm very proud of my accomplishments. Also would like to thank my beautiful wife, Becky Melendez. Becky, can you stand up, please? Thank you for supporting me for the last 20 years of our lives. I know you didn't always understand why I loved the game so much, but you were there for me through thick and thin. I love you very much. And last but not least, I wanted to thank a very, very, very special person. They can't be here tonight with me, but I know she's here in spirit. And that's my mother. My mother passed away with cancer a while back. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If I had one biggest fan in the world, it was my mother. She was a very, very special lady when it came to athletics and watching me play. She would have the radio headset to every game and be listening to the announcers, be at the game physically and be listening to the announcers and what they were saying about their son. She was my biggest fan, and that was, I mean, she went to Findlay, she went to Mansfield, she went to Marion, she went to Sandusky. She was there at every single game. Mom, I know you're here in spirit. I love you. I miss you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Don't forget the coat, lady. Thanks. Thank you. Congratulations. There you go. Our next regular category enshrinee came to Lorain from arch rival Michigan in 1954 and would become one of our city's all-time finest football players at Lorain High School, only to return to the University of Michigan upon graduation, where he excelled even more in football. Paul Raider also was a standout in basketball and track at LHS and played amateur hockey with the Lorain Strollers. But it was in football where he stood out both on offense and defense, enough to earn all Buckeye Conference first team honors and all Ohio honorable mention. In the classroom, he was on the National Honor Society and voted class president in 1958. Paul played both ways at Michigan, but it was on defense where he made his mark by having the defensive team nicknamed Raiders. In recognition of his all-around excellence on and off the field, they still present an annual award called the Raiders Spirit Award. Raider passed away in 2004 at the age of 65. Accepting the award on behalf of his brother is George Raider. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the memory of Paul Raider into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. Oh, good, sure.
Is that all right?
Sure, it's fine by me.
Nobody rehearsed me either. Since I ran. Do I keep it?
Here, I'll hold it for you.
Okay. I'm Wendy Raider, and I just wanted to thank the people that put the program together, because everything they said in that program perfectly reflects Paul and his life and what he stood for. And the summary is just, there isn't a sour note there. I think it's just, someone did a really good job with the program. He was one of those single platoon players that you were referring to, and it was very grueling, and I think he was even relieved when they went to a two-platoon system. I'm a Dover, Ohio gal. So even though I have Michigan on my license plates and they refer to Ann Arbor, I met Paul just down the road at Vermilion at the hotel that was there. And it was a blind date, and changed my life. First, I'd like to thank Tom Brown, Paul's friend, Missouri Street neighbor, and his track teammate, for the extraordinary time and effort that he put into this nomination for Paul to the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. I also thank anyone else who, unbeknownst to me, put in a good word for Paul, because these things don't just happen, they don't just drop out of the sky. Paul died 3 years ago in May. Tom and his other friends know that Paul never would have sought this honor, but he would quietly have been so very pleased, and I am very grateful. Speaking as Paul's wife and the mother of our children, I'd like to introduce Kevin, Andrew, and Kristen, who are in the back of the room. If you'll just give a wave. They were just crazy about their father, and Paul passed his lifetime love of sports on to them. Paul never met a sport that he didn't like, and he also, in addition to his other skills, had a really wicked underarm pitch for softball. Referring also to Mr. Bankston and his comments, there was a wise man who also once said that sports and athletics develop three things: values, ethics, and character. And I would like to affirm that Paul's extensive participation in sports was directly related to the fine person that he became. You also have had athletics in your lives, and you also know the camaraderie, the physical demands, and the teamwork that sports provide that bring out the best in a person. In his professional life, Paul realized early on that he was not cut out to be an employee. He resisted taking direction from bosses, and he went way out on a limb and opened up his own office with a partner. It was dicey at first, in the beginning, 5 employees, and then up to 15 landscape architects in the office. That business is still in operation today and just celebrated its 40th anniversary last year. In later life, his favorite sport was fishing, anytime, anywhere, with anyone. Most of his favorite stories and activities centered around his fishing friends, his hunting buddies, and his monthly poker group. Here's just one small story about the difference that Paul made in life. Paul invited one of Kevin's high school friends to fly with him several times on weekends. Given that thrilling and personal introduction to flying, that young man went on to get an engineering degree at the Air Force Academy. He is now a pilot with a major airline and says to this day that Paul is the reason. I have brought another true athlete with me tonight. Paul's brother George played ice hockey almost year-round, well into his 60s, and he is one tough cookie, not to mention being an architect in Akron. Having lived with his mom and dad and brother in Lorain, George knows many tales about Paul's ventures with his Lorain friends. This is George.
I'll just make a couple of small comments and some anecdotes about Paul. I'd first like to, for the extended family that Paul had, like to thank the committee for graciously inviting us to this evening, and also thank the committee for Paul for this honor. What's normally not known about Paul in the program that you have is that he was an Eagle Scout. Wendy mentioned he was an avid fly fisherman and hunter, although he rarely shot anything. And he was truly a terrific softball pitcher. We played in the Lorain Rec League and several leagues in western Cleveland, oftentimes a doubleheader on the same night at different fields. And he would routinely strike out 10 to 12 batters in a 7-inning game. Many of his best friends are here tonight. Jim Foley, Jay Hershey, the late Jess Vargo, George Blue, and Gene Mudrock. And I hope they are here. Summer vacations, Paul worked construction and at the mill, steel mill that is, and he met several very tough, very strong individuals who played ice hockey for Ken Meyer's team called the Strollers. And since Paul and I had played some hockey in Detroit, we joined up and played what I would call some semi-pro games in Toledo and Erie and around. And Paul fit in very well with that tough group. A couple of short stories about Paul. When he was running track, the coach asked him one day to run the 440, which he hadn't done before, as a substitute. Now, Paul had very short, stubby legs, perfect for a running back, not suited to the 440. But he ran it anyway, but he had to run a half mile to cover the 440 distance. Now, my parents had 2 children, Paul and I, and he got all the brains. And if you think that I'm just being humble, consider this. When Michigan came down to Columbus to play in the horseshoe against Ohio State, Paul got us reserved seats on the field, because in those days they set up temporary chairs along the sidelines. And so for the entire game, I rooted very loudly for Michigan, right next to the Ohio State bench. And as you can see, I'm still alive. Thank you.
Our third inductee from the regular category is Joseph Restifo, who was an all-everything offensive and defensive lineman at Lorain High School, both athletically and academically. There aren't enough words to describe the love and admiration that his football teammates and coaches had for his abilities and leadership. Big and strong, his coaches easily named Joe their most valuable defensive player and ultimately their hard-nosed player of the year. He was the team captain his senior year, player of the week 3 times on defense and 8 times on offense. Joe was honored locally as Lorain County's Golden Helmet Award runner-up and statewide by being voted to UPI's AAA All-Ohio First Team in 1970. His excellence both in the classroom and in football earned Joe a full-ride scholarship to prestigious Harvard University. Joe's highlight season was 1974, when Harvard defeated previously unbeaten Yale in the game and earned them the Ivy League co-championship. Unfortunately, his life was cut short as he succumbed to cancer in 2005 at the age of 52. Ladies and gentlemen, accepting the award on behalf of his brother is Peter Restifo, and let us welcome the memory of Joseph Restifo into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Hi, I'm Mike Restifo, Joe's brother.
And I'm Pete Restifo. We're here to accept the award on behalf of our brother. Joe has a few comments, and then I'll finish.
Thank you. The 3 of us, we were always a team, and Joe's no longer here. But we watch his back just like he's watching our back right now. I want to thank the committee, and I want to thank all of his coaches. Joe was a really, really special person, and anybody that knows Joe, not just in football, he was a guru. He had all the gifts. He had the talent. He had everything. One thing that really impressed me is the team that Joe played on. He played in the height of, in my opinion, when Lorain High in Lorain County was a powerhouse. From the late 60s to the early 70s, Joe graduated in 1970. I watched football across the country. My brother and I, Joe, when he was alive, we used to travel. We watched football in Texas, we watched it in Florida, we've watched it in California, Pennsylvania, you name it. I never seen a team that even came close to the teams that played the years before my brother, during, and right after. On those teams, over half the kids received scholarships to universities. That's unheard of. I've always been proud of Lorain, but coming back here, when I see all the athletes and all the people, Lorain could be Canton. This was a cradle of football. And so whenever you see all the football programs throughout the country, you have to thank your own backyard. The Coach Providence, the Coach Kennedys, the Coach Farrs. They created a generation of men that you look at Wisconsin, all the other places, even Florida, where I'm living. Everybody in Florida is from Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. So anyways, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of my brother and turn it over to my other brother.
First of all, my brother had a few comments that he hoped we would be able to make for him. This was and is a wonderful place to grow up. He was always very proud of being from Lorain. He was a Lorain boy at heart, always first. In his mind and in his spirit was his great and deep appreciation for his time here in Lorain. And as you may know, he was sick and he suffered greatly. But he made a couple comments I think I need to share with you. He said, how terrible would it have been to go through life and have fear of a little bit of pain and fear of a little bit of fatigue. He said, how blessed and how lucky we were to have the coaches that we had and the fathers that we have. Our fathers, he said, were such tough men. They grew up in a depression. They lived with deprivation. They won a world war and won America a world empire. And these sons, us, were so blessed and so privileged to be with them. And the people they entrusted with this legacy and what they wanted for their sons were these coaches. He was deeply, deeply grateful to his coach, particularly Coach Kennedy, Coach Herman, Coach Provident, Coach Farr, Coach Musio, Coach Fariga, God rest his soul, Coach Bryant, Coach Herman. These are wonderful men. They were more than good and successful coaches. They were wonderful examples for us all the time. These were men who were easy to admire. And to this day, when they greet their students, they were all teachers, and as they greet their players, there's a great affection between all of us. That was a wonderful gift, and Joe was very grateful for it, he said, because imagine, he said, what it would be like to be afraid of a little bit of pain or a little bit of fatigue or a little bit of fear. That's what they gave us. It was a great, great gift. It was greatly appreciated. He wanted to make sure they were recognized. Second of all, he said of all the things he was proud of, most proud of, it wasn't being all Ohio, which was wonderful, and Dream Team or all Buckeye Conference. Those are wonderful accomplishments, and we here in Lorain understand what that means. Our children, our sons and daughters and brothers and fathers and sisters and mothers have distinguished themselves on playing fields all over this country. We know how to play the game, all right? We play it well, and we distinguish ourselves often. What's more important than that was he said, as you're growing up playing on the same team with these players, many of them are in the room with us tonight. These players don't go away. They're still here. They're still in the room with us tonight. These wonderful, great, gifted athletes, no matter what their age, no matter what their sport. And he said, when you're growing up and you're 14 and 15 years old, you never think you'll be that good. You never think you'll be able to play at that level, that you'll be as good as a Terry King or a Bernie Wallach or as a Jimmy Sabota or as a Ray Felton or as a Mark LaForce or all these wonderful players or Timmy Jenkins and all these guys that he looked up to. And he said his greatest achievement was when the very first time the coach handed him his jersey and says, you're starting tonight. That was his proudest moment because now he knew he measured up against the people that really counted, his coaches and his teammates. And as you know, Joe endured a terrible disease. And at the end, when it was time to nominate him, his friends and players and teammates wrote letters for him. And one night he called me up. He was having a particularly difficult evening. And he said, just make small talk with me, Pete. And he was having it was in a lot of pain. And it was approaching the end. And I said to him, you know, Joe, let me read to you some of the letters that your teammates and friends have written for you. And he said, you know, Pete, I've let all that go. And it was understandable. He was coming towards the end of his life, and he had let go the vanities of this world. But I read him the letters one by one. And as I read the letters to him, he was very, very quiet. And at the very end of it, he said, I'm going to go to sleep now. So all of you, I think you need to understand how important it is to be part of a team. And your teammates and your team, it's so special. It lasts forever. It goes on and on and on. The playing days end, but the relationship with the team never ends. You're always teammates. And those letters were such a comfort to him that the very last thing that he ever wrote, it was in the anniversary report, for the 35th anniversary of his 30th anniversary at Harvard, he wrote these words to his teammates. He said, "Love is the energy that penetrates all matter. God and love are synonymous, as God is pure love. So the right relationship with God is love. Since everything that exists is reflective of God, the right relationship to everything that exists is love. Love sanctifies every feeling, every action, every thought. Every morning I think of the people I love. My litany of saints includes my lifelong friends. I have been blessed recently to reestablish contact with many of you. I have drawn much strength and comfort from this. Old friends are the best friends. Make time in the second half of your life for the people you loved in the first half of your life." I guess so much for understanding how important it is for all of us to always remember what it's like to be part of a team. Thank you. We are so appreciative of this honor for Joseph.
Now, lest you think young ladies haven't made their mark athletically in Lorain, please read Deborah Taylor's program bio in junior high school at Admiral King High School, where she now coaches freshman girls, and finally at Cleveland State University, where she is a legend in women's basketball. Debbie is our fourth regular category enshrinee tonight, not only for her basketball talent, but also in volleyball, where she was equally talented, but on the hardwoods, where she was all Lorain County, all Buckeye Conference, all Erie Shores Conference, all district and Associated Press Class AAA First Team All-Ohio in 1987. Her basketball skill earned Debbie a full-ride 4-year athletic scholarship to CSU, where she would become a 4-year starter in 1987 to 1991. She was first team All-North Star Conference her junior and senior years, and her teammates named her most outstanding player all 4 years. She entered the CSU Athletic Hall of Fame in 2001. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Deborah Taylor into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I don't have a speech prepared, and I won't be up here long. I saw 4 minutes, and that looked real good to me. Actually, it'll be less. But I'm real grateful to be nominated to the Sports Hall of Fame. I want to thank the committee. This is truly an honor and a privilege. I want to thank my family for coming out and supporting my son, Mr. Bieber, for putting together all the work, and Mr. Dohanis. Thank you very much. It's a lot of stuff we put together there to get the ball rolling. Like I said, I really don't have a whole lot to say. It's just exciting to be a part of this. Being inducted to Cleveland State Hall of Fame was real exciting. Then to come back to hometown and be inducted is also exciting. And to me, it's all about my inspiration that sits over here. Being able to pave the way for him, make a legacy for him that I know he's going to excel. Just pouring it all back into the community is what it's all about. And first, it starts at home. So I'm just honored to be a part of this. I'm glad for my son to be here tonight because, again, to me, this is what it's all about, the next generation. I can remember playing with him, and I would never let him beat me because I wanted him to be tough. And I was kicking his butt. But this guy is tough now. He's 13 years old. He's taller than me now, and he's kicking my butt. So this is what it's all about, and I'm expecting to see him do far beyond what I've done, and I'm just thankful. Thank you very much.
Sure, go right ahead.
You know what? I want to also really, really say thank you to my mother and my family because, wow, I mean, I cannot remember a game where she was not there. You know, they were there for every game. We traveled to Florida, Wisconsin, all our road trips. They got on a plane, they went right with us. They were in the hotel rooms with us. She supported me. She's been there through thick and thin, the ups and downs, the heartaches, the pains, the good times. Mom, I love you, and I thank you very much.
Congratulations. Baseball honors came early for hard-throwing right-hander Brian Tutkovitz, starting with his role as an ace pitcher on 2 Lorain American Legion state championship teams, coached by Lorain Sports Hall of Famer Bill Tippy. He was an All-Star and Player of the Week honoree multiple times. Although a Lorain native, Brian achieved local and state scholastic baseball honors at Marion L. Steele High School in Amherst. He was first-team All-Southwest Conference and Conference MVP in his junior and senior years, and as a senior became Amherst's first-ever All-Ohio AAA first-team selection in any sport. His 17-4 record and 192 career strikeouts are still school records. Brian went on to college greatness at Kent State University, where he earned bachelor and master's degrees in sports administration and management. He was a key pitcher on 2 KSU teams that won the Mid-American Conference Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brian Tutkovitz into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Tate was kind enough to go over all of my accolades, give you a little bit of brief history on what happened this week. Pitched big games, state championships, collegiately and in high school. Tuesday, get a call from my mom. Brian, did you take your shirt and take it to the laundromat and get it laundered? Yes, Mom, I did. Thursday rolls around, my dad calls. Brian, do you know how to get to DeLuca's place in the park? Grew up here, lived here for 20 years, and that is my mom and dad. But they were always there, and in a great way. Whether it be in high school or traveling down south to our spring trips collegiately at Kent State, they were always following the bus, getting stopped by the police, going through red lights, but they were definitely there. Today I had some prepared remarks. Every time I turned around, there was someone new that was showing up that I hadn't expected to be here. Truly an honor for all of those people to take the time out and be with me today and spend their time again with me. All the way since I was 7 years old, teammates that are here today that I grew up playing with, competing against, and it's not the games or the practices that I miss with those folks. It's the time away from athletics. It's the locker room. It's riding on the bus that really is what we take away from sports. And Mr. Bankston was kind enough to say it's more than playing on the field. It's really about what you get out of sports. And I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. Feels like my wedding again. But hopefully what I've done, they don't know what I did on the field, but hopefully they can say that I'm a great father and that they'll remember me in that light. So thank you to everyone that is inducted along with me, to all the Mr. Driscoll and everyone within the committee that has spent their time putting this together. Thank you very much. So we'll see you later.
The final inductee from the regular category is Harold Walton, an outstanding prep and collegiate player whose strengths were scoring and defense. Admiral King High School basketball teams in the latter 1980s under Coach Mitch Gillum were among Ohio's elite, and a major reason was the play of Walton. He led the Admirals to the state championship Final Four twice, including his senior year in 1987-88, when they compiled a 25-1 all-time school record. As a senior in 1988, Harold was first team All-Ohio and Erie Shore Conference Player of the Year when he shot 52% for the field, 72% foul shooting, and averaged 19.5 points per ball game. In addition, he was chosen Lorain County Mr. Basketball, received a McDonald's All-American mention, and played in the North-South game in Ohio. And we might mention he was a Scholastic National Honor Society student. Harold played college basketball at Kent State University, where he was a four-year starter and was named Mid-American Conference Freshman Player of the Year. A recurring thigh injury hampered his performance in his junior and senior seasons. But ladies and gentlemen, right now, let us welcome Harold Walton into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Congratulations. Thank you. Good evening. As I reflect on my basketball career at Admiral King High School and Kent State University, a certain quote comes to mind. Someone is enjoying shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. I believe that quote provides a good explanation of my thoughts and feelings as I received the privilege of being inducted into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. I'm truly honored and blessed to be given the opportunity to enjoy the shade from the tree so many others before me helped plant. In the Walton household, my mother and father set the bar. They emphasized the importance of education and made sure it was always a priority in our lives. My brother and sisters showed me how being committed to achieving your goals required action, took a lot of hard work, and required you to have confidence in your ability. They also showed me how basketball could open doors to opportunities very few get the chance to experience. My teammates proved that there is strength in numbers and that much can be accomplished when no one is concerned about who gets credit for the work. From my coaches, I learned the importance of preparation and to always respect the competition, but never fear the competition. Basketball was and still is a very big part of my life. The experiences I've had as a result of playing the game of basketball have helped shape the person I am today. Whether it be losing my position as the starting point guard on my freshman basketball team, being a major part of a nationally ranked high school team that is considered one of Lorain's best teams ever, or receiving an athletic scholarship to a Division I college. Each step along the way helped develop my character, my desire to achieve, and more importantly, my future. By sharing what I've experienced and the lessons I've learned along the way, perhaps someone else can enjoy shade from a tree that I have helped plant. In closing, I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for this great recognition. I would also like to thank everyone in attendance for coming out and sharing this day with all of the inductees. To my family, I thank you for all of your guidance and support, for being role models and for leading the way. To my high school and college teammates and friends, I thank you for the relationships and the memories. To the city of Lorain, I thank you for your support and your participation in making my high school and college years a wonderful time of my life. And finally, to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, I give thanks for this day and the undeserved blessings he has allowed me to experience through the game of basketball. May God bless you all, and thank you for sharing this day with me.
The first inductee from the special category is Michael Burke, who was a stellar scholastic athlete, first at Lorain St. Mary High School, and then at Lorain Catholic High School. He was a 2-year starter in football and basketball, in which he was co-captain his senior year, but it was in tennis where Mike truly excelled as a player and later as a coach. He racked up a 26-1 singles record his senior year and compiled a 4-year record of 72 wins in 83 matches, more than good enough to become LC's first academic athlete award winner. In local amateur play, Mike won 8 city championships, 5 of them in partnership with his father, Bill Burke, in father-son doubles competition. Mike was a 4-year starter and a 2-time league singles champion at Defiance College, and then became boys and girls tennis coach at Napoleon High School, amassing a 32-year record of 617 wins, 205 losses, and sending 24 players to the state tennis tournament. He was inducted into the Ohio Tennis Coaches Hall of Fame in 1999 and the Defiance College Hall of Fame in 1999. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Burke into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. First of all, Coach Bankston, 43 years as a head basketball coach. What are you, crazy? Coach Lawhead coached 38 years, and I know he's crazy. I have a lot in common before I really get into my speech with the next inductee, Rich Zavosic. We both played basketball at Lorain Catholic. We both played for Coach Jim Lawhead. We both were the captain of the team, and we both went to Defiance College to play basketball. But I ask you, anybody confused about whether this looks like a college basketball player's body? It didn't confuse the coach at Defiance either, and I got cut. It went back to the same thing that Coach Lawhead always said that was in the paper today. He called me hard-nosed, and I said, what did that mean? And he said, you couldn't shoot. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thank 5 people. There are going to be a few stories involved in the 5 people that I thank. The first 2 people that I'm going to thank for why I'm standing here today helped me both in my high school career as an athlete as well as my professional career as a coach. Those 2 guys are also members of the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. Mr. Frank Hicks from Lorain Admiral King High School over there, and Coach Jim Lawhead from Lorain Catholic and Lorain St. Mary's right over here. Now, these 2 guys are actually intertwined in a very interesting story. When I was a sophomore, I was playing for Lorain St. Mary's, and we had a pretty good team. Lorain St. Mary's was a small school, as you know, and probably one of the smallest schools in the state that sponsored tennis. Now, Coach Lawhead was actually the coach there, and he came from the Jim Lawhead School of you don't have to be able to play a sport in order to be able to coach it. And he was the tennis coach. So we went over to play Admiral King, and Admiral King was just becoming a really good team because Coach Hicks had started taking over that program. Admiral King didn't have courts yet. We, of course, didn't have any courts, so we're playing at Central Park. And we pull up there on 28th Street and pull off to the side, and there's a little rise up to the tennis courts. Now, you have to understand that this was 1968, and at that time, the state was changing the scoring system from 5 singles and 2 doubles where you could play both singles and doubles, so you really only needed 5 players on a team, to 3 singles and 2 doubles, where you actually needed 7 players. 3 singles players because you couldn't play both, and 4 doubles players. Now, St. Mary's, we had only played 5 and 2, and we had 5 pretty good players, including the captain of the team, which is my brother John, who's sitting right back over here. So we get to Central Park, and we get out. We took Lawhead's station wagon. They had this great big station wagon that they needed because they had 21 or 22 kids. I don't remember which one it is. So we get to Central Park, and we walk up this little rise, and this is a true story, by the way. Coach Hicks says, "Where's the rest of your players?" Coach Lawhead says, "We got our 5 right here." Coach Hicks says, "Well, we're playing 3 and 2 today. You're going to need 7. He goes, "Nah, we've never played 3 and 2. We're playing 5 and 2. He says, "Well, this is our home match." Admiral King didn't have courts. This was their home match. He says, "We're playing 3 and 2. Now, the 5 high school kids were standing here, and these 2 guys got into a pretty good argument. And we're off to the side kind of snickering a little bit, thinking, we're going to get to see 2 grown men fight. This is going to be so cool. Well, he finally turned around and saw us laughing about it, and he sent us back to the car. So we go sit in the car. He comes back a couple minutes later, and he sits down, closes the door, and says, "Guys, here's a story. We can go get Timmy Donahue and Phil Kelly and come back here and play Admiral King, or we can just bag this match." Now, no one was going to say anything because my brother was the captain, and he would have beat them up if they said anything. And he finally said, after about a 5-second silence, "Screw Admiral King, let's go home." Which is exactly, we didn't play Admiral King for the next 3 years because of that situation. Now, when I do want to point out that, at the end of my junior basketball season, Coach Lawhead came to me on the Friday before the start of tennis season, and he said, "Michael," he says, "I'm not going to coach tennis this year." I said, "Oh, good. Who's going to coach?" I'm thinking I'm finally going to get some coaching. And he said, "Mike Hummel, a first-year English teacher." So I'm thinking, well, maybe this guy knows something about tennis. He kind of talked like Maxwell Smart. He had black horn-rimmed glasses. But I went to him and said, "Mr. Hummel, I understand you're going to be the boys tennis coach." He said, "Yep, that's right." And I said, "Are you a player? Do you know anything about the game?" This is absolutely the truth. The Friday before the season started on Monday, he said, "Never picked up a racket. I'm going to read up on it this weekend." He also came from the Jim Lawhead school of you don't have to be able to play a sport in order to be able to coach it. The only good thing about that tennis season, and by the way, we were 12-0. We ended the season undefeated, the last undefeated team in any sport at St. Mary High School before it closed. The captain of that team was Frank Coughlin. He's sitting right over here. And we convinced Mr. Hummel that we had to have something to eat after school before the matches, because sometimes the matches would go on until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and if we ate at 11:15 for lunch, we'd get too hungry. So we convinced him we had to stop at McDonald's or somewhere and get a milkshake or ice cream. And we told him, now this guy didn't know anything about coaching anything, to just save the receipts and give them to the athletic director, Jim Lawhead, at the end of the season, and he would reimburse them. That was an undefeated team. Now, my senior year, and this gets a little bit more serious, we had a great team, and they only had one division at that time in the state of Ohio. Everybody was all together in one division, and they only took 2 players to state from the district tournament. And the district tournament was at Oberlin College, like it is right now. And I made it to the semifinals. In fact, there were 2 St. Mary's or Lorain Catholic kids in the semifinals in the smallest school that sponsored tennis. And I'm playing a big, tall, left-handed kid from Rocky River named Dale Watts. And I hadn't played anybody left-handed or anybody any good all season. And that's why I was 26-0 at the time. So I lose the first set 6-1. And I go back into the corner, and I'm picking up the balls, getting ready for the second set. And somebody outside the fence says to me, "Hit it to the tee." And I picked the ball up, and I looked outside, and I said, "What?" And he said, "Hit it to the tee," which is the center of the court. It was Frank Hicks, the Admiral King coach. He cared about kids who played tennis in Lorain no matter what school they went to. I said, "What?" And he said, "Use your athletic ability. You can beat this guy. Hit it to the tee. Don't miss a shot." And he turned around and walked away. Now, you have to understand, in 1970, there was no coaching, during the match. You weren't supposed to be talking to anybody, much less somebody who wasn't one of your players, all right? I think he talked all the time to players, by the way. Anyway, that was great advice. I didn't win the second set or the match, but I lost 9-7. They didn't have the tiebreaker back then, and it was a great match, and I never forgot the fact that he was willing to help me. Now, Frank Hicks also ran a summer tennis program in the city of Lorain that no longer exists. It was run by the recreation program. He taught adults, young people, anybody that they wanted to learn how to play tennis and to love tennis, and I really appreciate that, Coach Hicks. Now, the one other thing I want to say about Coach Lawhead is something that's very, very underestimated in his career is the fact that I had 3 teachers in my life who were the best teachers I ever had. One in high school, one in college, and one in graduate school. And Coach Lawhead was the best teacher that I ever had. And I think it's something that a lot of people overlook what an outstanding teacher he really was. Thank you, Coach. Okay, 3 more quick people to thank. First of all, I got to thank my wife, Jane, sitting right over there. I told you I went to Defiance College. I've said this 100 times. The best thing that I got out of Defiance College was my wonderful wife, Jane. We were on the speech team together she was a 4-year national qualifier, and I was on the speech team for 3 years, and I joined the speech team because it was something that I can compete in and something I could travel for free, and I didn't have anything to do during the winter because I got cut from the basketball team. So I want to thank Jane. I coached 1,200 high school football games, basketball games, or tennis matches, and at least 150 times she asked me who won. Now, one other thing is when I was the freshman football coach at Napoleon, the varsity football coach's wife used to get into these huge arguments up in the stands. Now, Napoleon is a place where 6,000 people go to the football games. And if somebody yelled down at the coaches or the players, she would turn around and get into an argument. And I went home one Friday night and I said, Jane, Diane got into another argument up in the stands. She almost got in a fight. I said, that's incredible. And Jane just shook her head. And I said, Jane, if I ever got the head football job, would you even go to all the games? She said, well, of course I would, depending on the weather. That's a true story, all right? And I did get the head football job, but we won't go there at all, because I'm no longer the head football coach there. The other 2 people that I want to thank my brother John, who's been an inspiration to me all the way through. He's someone who hopefully in the very near future will be standing right here at the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. He's won a state football championship in Colorado and taken teams in 3 different states to playoffs, turning programs around that weren't very good. But he was an inspiration to me all through high school, as well as all the way through my professional career. I knew that I could always call him and ask him for any advice anything that I possibly needed. So, John, thank you very much. Finally, I want to thank my mother, Tilly. She's also sitting right over here. We had 5 kids in our family. Growing up in Lorain with 5 kids in the 1960s, where all the 5 kids are weird, had to be difficult for any parent. I don't know about you people, but I've never seen anybody who could break a candy bar into 5 equal pieces like my mother could. And if one piece was a little bit bigger than the other one, she gave it to John because she always liked him best anyway. And everybody knows that, too, in our family. She also took up tennis, by the way, late in our careers as players and became a very fine player herself. And she was the rock that held our family together in the difficult times, the turbulent times, the crazy times of the 1960s. Mother, thank you very much. Finally, in conclusion, when this organization started, I was a junior in high school, and my father, I came home, and he always would cut out articles, some articles that I wrote, because I used to write for the Lorain Journal at one time. He would correct those articles. But the other articles, he would write little notes on. And he wrote a note on an article when they talked about the formation of the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame and said, this is something for you to shoot for. Well, my father passed away in 1991, and as you heard Joe say, I got an opportunity to play doubles with him in many, many tournaments. And I didn't obviously know when he passed away that this would ever occur, but I said to myself when it happened that if it ever happened, I would dedicate it to him. Dad, this is for you. Thanks.
There's something special about tonight's special category. Our second inductee in that category happens to be Richard Zvosik, a basketball standout at Lorain Catholic High School and then at Defiance College, and ultimately as a highly successful college basketball coach. Our previous special category inductee, Mike Burke, prepped at LC, then Defiance College, and was also a very successful coach, albeit in tennis. I didn't write this. I want you to know that, Mike. I'm just reading it. While at Lorain Catholic, Richard was a 3-year letterman who, as a senior, was all Erie Coast Conference first team, all Lorain County first team, team captain and MVP. He lettered 2 years at Defiance before embarking on his coaching career. After assistant coaching stops at Bowling Green, Barton College in North Carolina, and Loyola College in Maryland, Richard landed his first head coaching job at St. Francis College in New York at the tender age of 27. His success there led to head coaching jobs and continuing success at bigger schools, including the University of North Florida and finally the University of Missouri at Kansas City, where he became Conference Coach of the Year in 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Richard Zavosic into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame.
Not going to make the same mistake you made, Ricky. I put him right there.
Haven't done this since you were a little kid.
How you doing, Joe?
Good.
I tell you, I prepared some notes here today, but when I found out that they were going in alphabetical order and I was going to be last, I decided, forget the notes. I'm just going to kind of keep it short, wing it, and see where it goes. First of all, I feel very humbled to be standing up here right now. With all the inductees, and I got to admit, this is a very unexpected honor, and I'm very appreciative to the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. It has actually been 30 years since I came to this banquet. The last time I was here was 1977, I believe it was. John Wooden was the guest speaker. No disrespect to you, Steve Bankston. John Wooden was a pretty good coach himself. And he really made an impact on me. I was a high school student at the time and decided that that's what I really wanted to do, was become a college basketball coach. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to have done that for the last 25 years. However, let me stop here for a moment. I just want to say, Deborah, your son Claude, right now I'm offering him a scholarship. These are all my witnesses. All right? When I found out he's 13 years old, he's bigger than my son, who's a senior in high school, or a junior in high school, I should say. Unbelievable. And if he's got your talent, he's going to be a heck of a player. But in any event, I would like to thank, first of all, my family. My son Colin is actually the only one who is here tonight. My wife, who has been with me for 18 years. And that's like, in a coach's marriage lifetime, that's about 46 years. Believe me, she's lived in 6 different states, went through about 9 different job changes, and has been a trooper. And my son, who is now a junior in high school, Colin, who is with me tonight, actually, his first 5 years in school, his first 5 years in school, he attended 4 different schools while we moved from New York to Florida to Maryland to Kansas City. But I just want to tell a quick story about him. When I was down in Florida, he was probably, 2nd or 3rd grade, and we had played down in Lakeland, Florida, a few hours away, and he wanted to stay up and wait until I got home, find out how we did. Well, he listened to the game on the radio. We got home. It was a kind of a tough game. We lost. And he looks at me and he says, "Dad, you ain't much of a coach." Now, you got to understand, it's like 2 in the morning. I'm a little bit upset because we got beat by a couple of touchdowns, so it wasn't a good night. And like most parents, they showed some restraint. So all I could say to him, and as I looked at him, I said, "Colin, just don't use the word ain't." And you know, obviously, we wanted to be a little bit worse than that. But I also wanted to thank my mother and father and the rest of my family who are here tonight. My mother and father set tremendous examples for me growing up. Probably the best thing they did for me is they believed in me. And they thought that I could do anything, and I have tried to live up to that standard. And also, I wanted to thank my teammates from high school who are sitting right down here front. And you have no idea how good that makes me feel to see you guys here tonight. Former coaches, Jim Lawhead, I have no stories to tell about you. I've been sitting over there next to Coach Burke, and we've been reminiscing about Coach Lawhead in high school, Coach Hohenberger in college, who was the high school or the college coach at Defiance. And I just want to tell you, Coach Burke, when he calls you hard-nosed, when I got my first college job, the newspaper reporter called him and asked him, well, what kind of player was Rich as a basketball player? And he said he was a hell of a racquetball player. To this day, I have no idea what that quote means, but that's why tonight I didn't invite him to come. However, and to kind of tie things together, Steve Banks and I almost played for you, because as you know, I went to Baldwin Wallace for 1 year before I transferred out. And I transferred out for one simple reason. I asked Coach Hohenberger, could he get me a coaching job after college? And he said yes. And I'm thankful that he was able to get me a graduate assistant's job at Bowling Green upon my graduation from Defiance, and kind of led me on my way. Now, I picked up the newspaper today and I read about going to St. Francis College in Brooklyn. And, I love to read good things about myself, and I read the article, and the first thing it says, well, he had his car broken into and all his clothes stolen. His car was stolen 3 times, 4 car radios. And I said, well, what about my career at St. Francis? We had a pretty good run. And so be it. I guess that's what it was in New York. You lose your car, and then you move to Florida, which I did, to go to the University of North Florida to start the program down there. Now, I just want to digress here for 1 second and let you know one thing. I got a call back a couple of months ago from Ricky Melendez, and he called me to tell me that he was being inducted into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame, and it was probably one of the proudest moments in my coaching career. I'm getting a little choked up here, because Ricky, as he told his story so eloquently, he was really probably the first kid that I had ever recruited. And he mentioned his mother. She was a tough woman. She was fair, but she was tough, and we had to recruit her as well as recruiting Ricky to get him down there to North Carolina. And so when he called me, I was very touched. And I was coming to this function to be here to honor him. And then a couple of days later, I get a call from somebody from Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. And I thought it was really somebody kind of playing a joke on me. And you got to understand, like I said, this is a little unexpected, and I guess it was maybe the year prior. We were having a pretty good year, and we beat a Kansas State team by 41 points. And the next day, I get a phone call, and I'm on top of the world. It was a great win for UMKC, and I'm upstairs shaving, and my daughter says, well, there's a reporter on it, or there's somebody on the phone. And I said, well, who is it? And they said, it's somebody from Sports Illustrated. So I'm thinking, oh, I've made the big time now here. Sports Illustrated's going to ask me, hey, what did we do to beat Kansas State by 41, a Big 12 team and all that? So, I cut myself shaving. I'm hurrying down the stairs, and I pick up the phone, and I hear on the other end of the line, yes, for 87 cents a week, you too can have Sports Illustrated delivered to your house. So you got to understand, when I got the call from Joe Lindsay that I was being inducted into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame, I thought it maybe was somebody from back here playing a joke on me. But again, I'm very honored to be a part of this Hall of Fame. I was kind of joking with my wife before I flew out here. A couple of years ago, she was inducted into the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame, and she prepared all these remarks, and they talk about you got 4 minutes. Like, come on, this is the night of your life for most of us. And come on, 4 minutes? Give me a break. The only reason I didn't tell you to stand up and take a seventh inning stretch again, because I was afraid some of you would walk out. But I was there, and I watched as some woman brought up every lacrosse stick ever made, and it lasted like 20 minutes. So I swear to God I wasn't going to carry on. So that being said, I just want to thank the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame, and hopefully I didn't miss anybody. I tried to write everybody's name down, and I wish all of you a very safe trip home. I feel like I'm closing the dais here tonight. Thank you very much.
As you know, the 1962 Admiral King football team is our team honoree tonight. I happen to know that back in 1962 there was a teacher at Admiral King who on Fridays when the team played could not teach because he was just too wound up. I think it is only fitting that the man who has filled in for me for many years, done so very well, comes up and takes a shot at the team that he just loved the most, Ron Bacalar. Come on up here, Ronnie.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
You're all right. As Joe indicated, back in 1962, I was 24 years old, my second year teaching, and I lived and literally died with that football team. I do apologize to the taxpayers of Lorain. For 10 consecutive Fridays, I did not complete my duties as a teacher. I walked the hallways to release the pent-up energy that began the night before when I could not sleep. On October 31st, a Thursday, my daughter was born. I was there. On Friday, November 1st, the team traveled to Marion. I was there. And I'm still dying because of that. I hear about it, and I hear about it. It didn't take brand new Admiral King High School very long to make itself known in Ohio high school football circles. 2 years to be exact. The 1962 Admirals, under Coach Tony Misko's guidance, rolled to a 9-1 record, were ranked in the state top 10 all season, and lost their only game. It says rain-drenched. It was a monsoon season finale at Sandusky. 9 Admirals received all Buckeye Conference honors on offense and defense, led by two-way tackle Don Downing, the lone unanimous choice who went on to captain the 1966 U.S. Naval Academy football team. Other great stars on that team included power running back Joe Kozar, the Buckeye Conference scoring leader with 84 points, and Lorain County scoring leader with 136. Joe McFadden, Bob Lamitz, Fred Glick, Bob Tomaszewski, Tom Clinscales, Dave Billick, Joe Radman, both of whom were also basketball standouts at Admiral King. Well, at least Clinscales and Billick were. I don't know about Radman. Standouts at Kent State University. Besides Coach Misko, others from that 1962 Admiral King team already enshrined in the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame are assistant coaches Ed DeHanis and Don Fritz, and players Downing and Tomaszewski. We now invite the team members to come forward to the awards area. And representing the team are assistant coach Ed DeHanis and player representative Bob Tomaszewski, who will introduce all attending players and present them with a commemorative certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 1962 Admiral King football team into the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. Torpedo gang.
Seniors here.
You got to get some instructions here. Boys, sophomores, juniors in the middle, seniors on this end. First of all, I want a show of hands. All the veterans in the room tonight, put your hands up. Get them up there. Thank you for your service to our country. God bless you. I'm a little nervous doing this tonight. I'm used to speaking to a lot of people doing the football games on WEOL, but I'm not used to having the people I'm talking to look back at me, okay? So I made these concerns known to my broadcast partner, Tim Elkhorn, the voice of football in Lorain County, and he said, Tom, well, you don't have to worry about it. He says, you got a face for football. So I screwed that up. Sorry, Joe. I got a face for radio. There you go. We're off and running. Anyway, I want to thank the Hall of Fame for this prestigious honor, and I'd like to thank everybody that was on the committee that helped us find all these guys. This was not an easy task. There were a lot of phone calls, a lot of Googling, and all other kind of computer stuff, but we found them. There were times, though, when I felt like Paul Drake. If you got to know who Paul Drake is, ask somebody that's older than you, and they'll tell you about Perry Mason. Before I introduce these guys, there's one thing you have to know. This was a very, very good football team, but we were better friends. I'd like to start out with and mention the deceased members of the team, no longer with us. First of all, Coach Don Fritz, who is a member of this Hall of Fame. Ray Hodorowski died in the service of his country in Vietnam. John Dampier, Joe Olajar, Jesse Randleman, and Ray Watson. The coaches, the guys that got us through all that, the head man, the guy that was the guiding spirit on the team, he organized everything, was our leader, was our motivator. Head coach, Tony Misko. Wayne Browning, Kurt Calamari were coaches. They could not be here tonight. Ed Dohanis, Greg Panessa, and Ralph Pisanelli. Those guys here? There they come. As I call their names. Okay, we're going to start with the sophomores. Ray Barrios, take a step forward. There you go. Let's do this. Let's hold our applause because I know you're getting tired and there's a lot of us, so hang on. Elmer Garza, Bob Parker, Dan Prieto, Don Risco, Emmett Ross, Larry Solomon, and Tom Tomasic. The juniors on the team, Joe Azak, Dave Billick, Jim Dampier, Rick Iman, Chris Gregg. It's a big guy out there. Cash Johnson, Bob Johnson, Doug Kraus, Gary Moore, Dick Paskey, Dave Shigerick, Jerome Williams, that's right, the Jet, Jerry Winius, the seniors. It's kind of strange. We were seniors then, we're seniors today. Don Andriovich, Dave Burke, Tom Klingscales, George Dabrowski, Don Downing, Fred Glick, Joe Kozar, Bob Lamitz, Joe McFadden, also known as Joe Man. Bill Poplar, Joe Radman, Al Szabo, and Gene Zwolinski. Now, before I've got a few comments, but before we do that, as a team, we want to present something to the Admiral King High School. So if Brian Corey would come up here real quick, athletic director. Brian, we have two pictures, two team pictures. We've got one for the Admiral King weight room, and maybe above that we're going to have a sign put up said, "We're next." And we got another one for the trophy case in the lobby of Admiral King High School. There you go. Thank you. Don't drop them. As I look at this group, I have no doubt in my mind that if we right now went out in the parking lot, got a little bit of space, we could run the end around play, Coach Misko's favorite play. Now, I have no doubt that I could snap the ball to Freddie Glick. Freddie Glick could turn and make a handoff to Bobby Lamitz. Then he would turn again and hand the ball to Tommy Klingscales on the end around. Tommy would stop, plant his feet, and get ready to throw deep. My only problem, Joe Man, can you still go deep? I don't know, buddy. It might be just a little square out now, huh? Yeah, I got you. Okay, you're good. After that last game in November 1962, we've done a lot of things. We were all Buckeye Conference. We were all state. We went on to play football in college. We scored the first points in Dick's Stadium on the campus of Kent State University. We went to school. We went to technical schools. We went to the community college. We went to the university. We have 6 associate's degrees. We have 10 bachelor's degrees. We have 8 master's degrees. We have 2 PhDs, one in chemical engineering. That says an awful lot about Lorain Public Schools in the early 1960s. We went to work. We built cars. We made steel. We built homes. We started businesses and ran them for 35 years. We were service engineers. We were teachers. We were basketball coaches. We were head football coaches. We were plant managers. We were insurance agents. We worked for the city of Lorain. We were the director of marketing for Johnson & Johnson. We were electricians. We were union leaders. We were industrial engineers. We also served our country. We were Seabees, soldiers, sailors, and Marines. Hooah! We served in the United States, Korea, Europe, and Vietnam. We were awarded the National Defense Medal, the Good Conduct Medal, Presidential Unit Citation, Vietnam Service Medal, the Bronze Star, and the Purple Heart. And now we're in the Hall of Fame. How cool is that? One last thing. Being an old retired teacher, I got to give you some homework. Now, I know you didn't like homework when you were in school. Truth be known, there's not too many teachers like homework, but you're going to enjoy this. We're going to help Coach Campo and Coach Oval have better football teams. And you know how we're going to do that? In your travels, every day you meet people. You see kids all the time. So every time you see a high school kid, you're going to ask him, say, son, what school do you go to? He's going to say, Admiral King, Southview. And you're going to say, are you a football player? And he's going to say, yes, I am. And you're going to say, good for you, good luck this season. Now, if he says, no, I don't play football, here's your response. You look like you could be a football player. Why don't you give it a try? Get one of your buddies and go out for the team. You might like it. If we can get a few more players on the Lorain City teams, look out, brother. There's a lot of good players in the city of Lorain. Lorain is a tough nut town, and I don't think we should wait another 45 years to put a team in this Hall of Fame. Thank you very, very much.
Well, the hour is getting late, and I have a few closing remarks. I'd like to express my sincere thanks to those involved in making this another successful event. First to Joe Tate and to the Cavaliers for all their assistance, for Joe's longtime support of the Lorain Sports Hall of Fame. He's been Master of Ceremonies since 1985 and was an honorary enshrinee in 2001. Again, another fine job. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause, please. Next to our speaker, Steve Bankston. It was a wonderful, inspirational speech. Please come back again if you can. And let's not forget Len DeLuca and the staff here at DeLuca's Place in the Park. Thank you for their cooperation in making this a most successful and enjoyable event. And finally to Bob Lasicki and the Banquet Committee. Bob, if you could please take a stand. Also, I'd like to thank the program book editorial staff, the advertising coordinator, Mr. Ted Driscoll, and his staff, and all the committee members for their dedicated efforts in providing this event to continue honoring excellence in the athletics in the city of Lorain. A couple final announcements. The next activity in the annual golf outing fundraiser on July 19th, 2007 at Fox Creek Country Club. If you're interested in supporting this event through the whole sponsor program or being a participant, application forms are on your table or can be obtained from Chairman Ron Feldcamp or any committee member. Also, we invite you to visit Lorain Sports Hall of Fame Museum at St. Joseph Community Center. For details and schedule hours, see the program book, page 35. We're also going to have special hours tomorrow from 11 to 3 for all the people from out of town. You're more than welcome to visit. And finally, we thank you for your support for being here tonight. Most importantly, the bar will reopen now as the close of the program. And now I'd like to ask Reverend Stoika, please close with a benediction.
Let us pray. Thank you, O Lord God, for this evening of excellence. In closing, we remember those who have gone to the eternal rest. We thank you, O Christ our God, that you have satisfied us with your earthly blessings, the promise not of your heavenly blessings. But as you came among your disciples, O Savior, and gave them peace, come and to save us. Amen.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.